And my husband told his mother, "Our house is your house." And then he handed her a shiny new key. He thought it was a sweet gesture, a sign of a close family, but I knew exactly what it was. It was a betrayal, and it was the key that would eventually lock him and his mother out of my life for good. I, 29F, was married to Mark, 31M, for 3 years. We had what most people would call a good marriage. We laughed at the same shows, split the chores fairly, and rarely fought about money, but there was one thing that caused tension between us, and that was his mother, Karen. From the day we got married, Karen had opinions about everything. She called Mark every single day, sometimes twice. She had thoughts about my cooking, always suggesting I use less salt or more butter. She noticed when I hadn't vacuumed in a few days. She made little comments about my job as a teacher, wondering out loud why I didn't make more money like her friend's daughter who worked in real estate. Mark never saw it as a problem. To him, his mother was just being helpful. She meant well, he always said. She just wanted what was best for us. I tried to be patient. I smiled through her visits. I thanked her for her advice even when it stung. But then Mark came home one Tuesday evening with a huge grin on his face. "I did something wonderful today. I gave my mom a key to our place." I said, "You did what? Why would you do that without talking to me first?" He said, "So she can help out. She can come by when we're at work. It's not a big deal." My stomach dropped. I told him this was our home, our private space. I told him he should have asked me first, but Mark just waved his hand like I was being silly. His mother would only use it for emergencies, he promised. She just wanted to help. Why was I being so dramatic about it? 3 days later, I came home from teaching to find my entire kitchen rearranged. The coffee mugs were in a different cabinet. The spices were alphabetized. My favorite cutting board was nowhere to be found. Karen had been there, and she had decided my system wasn't good enough. When Mark got home, I was furious. I said, "Mark, I came home and I couldn't find anything in my own kitchen." "Your mom was here," he said. "See? I told you she wanted to help. She probably just organized it better." I wanted to scream, this was my kitchen." I knew where everything was. Now I had to hunt for a spatula in my own home. But Mark acted like I should be grateful. His mother had spent her afternoon making our lives easier, according to him. The next week, it got worse. I came home to find all our laundry done. That might sound nice, except Karen had washed my expensive cashmere sweater in hot water. It was now small enough to fit a child. That sweater cost me $200. It was a gift to myself after a hard year of teaching. Now it was ruined. I said, "She ruined my sweater. She needs to at least call before she comes over." He said, "It was an accident. You should be thanking her for doing our chores." I felt like I was going crazy. My husband couldn't see that his mother was invading our space. Every time I complained, he made me feel like the bad guy. Karen was just trying to help. Karen meant well. Karen loved us. But I didn't feel loved. I felt invaded. The intrusions became more frequent. Karen started showing up whenever she felt like it. One Saturday morning, I was still in my pajamas, drinking coffee and reading a book. I heard the door open, and there she was, letting herself in like she owned the place. She looked at me and made a comment about how late I was sleeping. It was 9 a.m. I worked hard all week. I deserved to relax on Saturday. But to Karen, I was being lazy. Another time, I came home to find strangers in my living room. Karen had brought her book club friend over and was giving her a tour of our house. She was pointing out everything she thought needed updating. The curtains were too dark. The couch was the wrong color. The art on the walls wasn't sophisticated enough. These women I had never met were judging my home while eating cookies in my living room. I said, "I came home to strangers on my couch. This is my home, not a public space." He said, "She was just proud of the house. You are making a big deal out of nothing." Each time Karen crossed a line, Mark found a way to excuse it. I started dreading coming home. I never knew if Karen would be there, rearranging my things or judging my choices. My own home didn't feel like mine anymore. Then came the day that changed everything. I was homesick from work, with a terrible cold. I had called in sick and was trying to sleep off the worst of it. I was buried under blankets, tissues scattered on the nightstand, feeling miserable. I heard the front door open. I figured Mark had come home early to check on me. That was sweet, I thought. But then my bedroom door opened, no knock, no warning, and there stood Karen. She walked right into my bedroom while I was lying there, sick and vulnerable. She didn't apologize. She didn't look embarrassed. Instead, she looked around and started commenting on the mess. There were clothes on the chair. The dresser was dusty. Did I always leave water glasses on the nightstand? I was too shocked to speak. This woman had just walked into my most private space without permission. I was in my underwear and a ratty t-shirt. I was sick, and she was critiquing my housekeeping. She finally left after telling me I should open a window to air out the germs. That night, I had reached my limit. When Mark came home, I was waiting for him. I said, "Your mother walked into our bedroom today, while I was in bed, sick, without knocking. This is the last straw. You have to get that key back from her now." He said, "Oh, come on. She was probably just worried about you. Why didn't you just lock the bedroom door if you wanted privacy?" Those words hit me like a slap. He was suggesting that I should lock myself in my own bedroom to keep his mother out. In my own home, I was supposed to hide behind locked doors. That was when I knew. Mark would never choose me. He would never see his mother's behavior as wrong. He would always make excuses for her and blame me for being upset. I didn't say anything else. I just nodded and went to bed. But my mind was made up. If Mark wouldn't protect our home, I would. The next morning, as soon as Mark left for work, I called a locksmith. The man arrived within an hour. I watched as he removed our old locks and installed new ones. The sound of the drill was oddly soothing. With each turn of his tools, I felt power returning to me. When he handed me the new keys, 3 of them, I felt peace for the first time in months. My home was mine again. I didn't text Mark. I didn't call him. I just waited. That afternoon, around 2 o'clock, I heard someone at the door. The doorknob jiggled. Then it jiggled again, harder this time. I looked through the peephole and saw Karen standing there, confusion on her face. She tried the key again and again. It wouldn't work. She pulled out her phone, and I knew she was calling Mark. 20 minutes later, Mark's car screeched into the driveway. He stormed up to the door and tried his key. It didn't work either. He started banging on the door, yelling my name. I took a deep breath and opened it. He said, "What did you do? Why can't we get in?" I said, "I changed the locks." "My key works fine." He said, "Are you serious? You went behind my back? My mother is standing outside." I said, "Yes, this is my house, and she is no longer welcome to enter it whenever she wants. She will be treated like a guest from now on. She can knock." Mark's face turned red, like he looked like he might explode. Karen appeared behind him, tears streaming down her face. She kept saying she was just trying to help, that she loved us, that she was family. But I didn't care anymore. I was done being invaded. I was done being disrespected in my own home. Mark pushed past me into the house and started yelling, "How dare I do this? How could I disrespect his mother like this? She had been nothing but generous to us. I was being controlling and cruel." His mother stood in the doorway, crying louder now, saying she had never been so insulted in her life. I stayed calm. I had expected this. Mark demanded I give him a new key immediately. He said his mother needed access to our home. She was family. This was unacceptable. I said, "No." He said, "Then we have a serious problem." I said, "Yes, we do. Your problem is that you have to choose between your wife and your mother, and my problem is now solved." Mark stared at me like he had never seen me before. He kept opening and closing his mouth, but no words came out. Finally, he stormed into our bedroom and started throwing clothes into a bag. He said I was impossible. He said I was heartless. He said his mother had done nothing to deserve this treatment. But I knew better. I had been patient. For years, I had tried talking to him countless times. I had begged him to set boundaries with his mother. He had chosen her comfort over mine every single time. Now I was choosing myself. Mark dragged his bag to the door where Karen was still standing, sniffling dramatically. He turned to look at me one more time. He said I would regret this. He said I was throwing away our marriage over nothing. He said his mother was more important to him than my petty complaints. That told me everything I needed to know. I watched as he and Karen walked to her car. She kept looking back at the house. At the door she could no longer open whenever she pleased. Mark threw his bag in the trunk, and they drove away. The house was suddenly quiet, beautifully, peacefully quiet. I walked through each room, touching my things, looking at my furniture, feeling the space that was fully mine again. The kitchen was back to my organization. The living room was arranged how I liked it. The bedroom was my sanctuary once more. Mark called that night from his mother's house. He wanted to talk. He thought I would have calmed down by now. He actually expected me to apologize and give his mother a new key. When I said no, he hung up on me. He called again the next day. Yes, then the next. Each time he insisted I was wrong. Each time his mother could be heard in the background, feeding him lines about what a terrible wife I was. After a week, Mark showed up with more friends to get more of his things. He had to knock and wait for me to let him in. His friends looked uncomfortable as he ranted about what I had done. One of them actually pulled me aside and said he understood why I changed the locks. That gave me hope that not everyone was as blind as Mark. Karen tried everything. She sent me long text messages about how hurt she was. She told family members I had banned her from her son's home. She posted on social media about ungrateful daughters-in-law, but I didn't care. For the first time in my marriage, I could come home and know it was just my home. No surprises, no intrusions, no judgment. Mark filed for divorce 2 months later. He said I had chosen a lock over his family, but that wasn't true. I had chosen myself over his mother's invasions. I had chosen peace over constant boundary violations. I had chosen to make my home a place where I felt safe and respected. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. Mark had to find his own apartment because his mother's constant presence had become too much even for him. Karen still tells everyone who will listen that I destroyed her son's marriage. But I know the truth. I saved myself from a lifetime of having no privacy, no boundaries, and no respect in my own home. And every time I use my key to open my door, the only key that works, I remember that I won.